Hello aspirants, welcome to the daily newspaper analysis brought to you by Shankar IAS Academy. Today, 2nd December, displayed here are the list of articles that we are going to discuss. The first article, a twice yearly shot could help end the AIDS only if it is available to everyone. This article is talking about the lack of lenacapavir, a medicine which is used to prevent HIV, and it is showing 100% efficacy in women population. But unfortunately, it is not available in Latin American nations. This is indicating the inequity in the global fight against HIV/AIDS. And this article is taken from the newspaper Indian Express. The second article, 60,000 ineligible beneficiaries in Kerala under Pradhan Kisan Samman Nidhi Yojana. That is, this article is taken from the newspaper Indian Express, and this is talking about that nearly 60,000 people who are actually ineligible for the beneficiaries, for the benefits under the PM Kisan Samman Nidhi Yojana got benefits, and now they are repaying the amount they received under this scheme. In this topic, we will be discussing the features about the Pradhan Mantri Kisan Samman Nidhi Yojana. And the third article, how green is steel made out of dismantled ships. And the article is taken from the newspaper The Hindu, which is talking about the ethical and environmental concerns associated with the green steel production, which uses the steel from the dismantled ships. And the fourth article, emerging H5N1 mutations raise risk of human infection. There was a general notion that the H5N1 only affects the birds, but there is a mutation in this virus which is raising concerns about rising human infection, because recently in British Columbia a teenager got infected due to the mutation in this virus. And this article is taken from the newspaper The Hindu from Sunday. So without much delay, let's begin our newspaper analysis with the first article. A twice yearly shot could help end AIDS only if it is available to everyone in need. We know that yesterday was 1st December. It is also observed as World AIDS Day, and this year the theme was Take the Right Path, My Health, My Right. So in this context, we have a news article from Indian Express which is talking about a medication called lenacapavir, which is used to fight the HIV in the global level. We know that according to the estimation of WHO, we have a population of 39.9 million people across the world living with HIV, and according to the estimation of National Institute of Health, we have a population of 2 million people within the country living with HIV. So it's a global problem, and therefore it needs a global efforts. And this medication, that is lenacapavir, showed 100% efficacy in women in preventing HIV, but unfortunately these days it is not available in Latin American nations, which shows the inequity in the global fight against HIV. So in this context, let us discuss more about HIV from prelims point of view. First, we will start the basic question: what is meant by HIV? HIV means human immunovirus. This is a RNA retrovirus. RNA virus means the virus which uses the ribonucleic acid as its genetic material. And once this HIV virus enters into the human body, this will be targeting the CD cells or T helper cells in the human blood, which is responsible for immunity. See how this works. If you take a human blood, you will be having three major components. First one is red blood cells, second one is white blood cells, and third one is platelets. So this white blood cell is responsible for immune system, and within this white blood cells we will be having two subcells. First one is T cells and second one is B cells, and T cells is responsible for killing the virus or infections or pathogens, while the B cells will neutralize the pathogens through producing antibodies, and this is how the human immune system works. Once this HIV enters into the human body, this will destroy the T cells. That is, in a normal person, in a healthy person, the T cells count will be ranging from 500 to 1500 cells per cubic millimeter blood. But if a person gets infected with HIV, and if he left untreated, then the virus, that is HIV, has a capacity to bring down the count of the T cells to below 200, and this can lead to a severe condition called AIDS, that is acute immunodeficiency syndrome. And in this stage, the people will be suffering from lot of other problems, from a minute fever to other complex conditions. At present, what we have to fight the HIV, the major treatment or therapy that we are using to treat the HIV is the antiretroviral therapy or treatment, which uses a combination of many drugs to fight the HIV in a human body. And these days this treatment has made a lot of progress. For example, we have achieved nearly absolute suppression of HIV infection in a person. For example, if a person have sexual relationship with an infected person, then the possibility of transmission of virus is very less. So that much progress that we have made in antiretroviral therapy, it suppresses the HIV infection in the human body and thus reduces the viral load. Moving on to certain legal and policy framework in India related to HIV. First, we have the right to health, which is indirectly mentioned in the Article 21 of the Indian Constitution, which is also available for people living with HIV. They can live a life with dignity. They can access all the public institutions without any discrimination in the society. And whenever the government or institutions take policies, then it should be inclusive. So the constitutional right under Article 21 backs all these provisions. And then we have the HIV and AIDS Prevention and Control Act 2017, which prohibits the discrimination against the people living with HIV, ensures confidentiality. That means their infection status, the data related to the treatment, nothing can be shared publicly or in a public platform. And then we have mandated grievance redressal, which is available for HIV people related to their treatment and their status. And then we have the HIV and AIDS Prevention Control Act recognized the right to treatment, which provide free and must access to antiretroviral treatment. And then we have the national policy on HIV/AIDS and the world of work. This framework was launched in the year 2009, and you have to note that this was a collaborative effort of the Ministry of Labour and Employment and the International Labour Organization. Sometimes the UPSC can ask questions like this, that is a national policy on HIV/AIDS and the world of work. This effort was launched by Ministry of Health and the ILO. Then the statement will be go wrong. So not that it is not the Ministry of Health, it is the Ministry of Labour and Employment. And this framework is focusing on the welfare and the justice of people living with HIV in the workplaces. Therefore, under this framework, there are efforts to prevent the transmission of infection in the workplace, provide social protection for the people living with HIV, and efforts to eliminate the social stigma and discrimination against HIV people in the workplace. And there's a judicial activism, and then we have a judicial case related to HIV. This is not that much asked in prelims, but you can expect it will be useful while writing the mains answer. The case is AIDS Bedbab Virodhi Andolan versus Union of India 1997, and in this case the Supreme Court highlighted the importance of taking anti-discriminatory measures against people living with HIV. This highlights the importance of inclusive measures that the government should work on to ensure the welfare and justice of the people living with HIV. And related to HIV, we also have various high court judgments. And while discussing the AIDS, then we also know about another institute called the National AIDS Control Organization, which is established under the program National AIDS Control Program. So this is established in the year 1992, and it is collaborating with the various institutes, including United Nations, to eliminate HIV and AIDS by 2030 from the 2010 level. So currently it is working on the target, that is UN AIDS 90-90-90 targets, which is focusing on 90% people living with HIV should know their status, 90% should receive sustained ART treatment, and 90% of the people have to achieve viral suppression through the ART treatment. So this is a global target which is aiming to eliminate the HIV and AIDS by 2030. And we have another program, that is National AIDS Control Program, which is established in 1992, and it is planning to reduce the infection level in India by 80% from 2010 level. And this is also aligning with the UN AIDS program, that is 90 targets. So in this article we discussed what is HIV, its basic facts. Then we discussed what is NACO, that is National AIDS Control Organization. Then we discussed National AIDS Control Program 1992. The question is, with reference to National AIDS Control Organization, consider the following statements. Statement 1, NACO operates under the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. Statement 2, it provides free antiretroviral therapy to all people living with HIV. Statement 3, One of its primary objective is to reduce HIV prevalence among the high-risk group through targeted interventions. Which of the statements given above is or are correct? Option A, 1 only, option B, 1 and 2 only, option C, 1, 2 and 3, and option D, 2 and 3 only. The correct answer is option C. All the three statements are correct. So with this understanding, let us move to the next article. 60,000 ineligible beneficiaries in Kerala under PM Kisan Samman Nidhi shows data. We know that the state of India from the very beginning itself, that is since the post-independence period, the government is known for its inclusive measures and social welfare schemes. But today from the state of Kerala, we have a disappointing news that nearly 60,000 ineligible beneficiaries were identified under the Pradhan Mantri Kisan Samman Nidhi. What is Pradhan Mantri Kisan Samman Nidhi? Actually, it is an income scheme which is meant for the small and marginal farmers. But for the past years, the government employees, professionals, and institutional holders also receiving benefits under Pradhan Mantri Kisan Samman Nidhi Yojana. So in this context, let us discuss more about this scheme from the prelims point of view. First, we are going to see the nature of the Pradhan Mantri Kisan Samman Nidhi Yojana. It is a central sector scheme, which means full fund will be allocated by the central government, and it is implemented in the year 2019. The objective of the scheme is to provide income support for the small and marginal farmers in India. And the major ultimate objective of the scheme is helping the farmers in meeting their financial needs, that is in both aspects, that is both their agriculture needs and domestic needs, and reducing the dependency of farmers on informal credit. Credit is very important for cultivation, right? But due to the lack of asset, the small and marginal farmers may not get a loan from formal banking sector. Therefore, they will be forced to take loan from informal bankers in the rural area, which will later become a source of exploiting the farmers. Therefore, through providing the income support, the PM Kisan Samman Nidhi Yojana is standing against the informal credit facility in the rural area, which is a source of exploiting the farmers. And the third objective is empowering rural economy. And coming to the implementation of the scheme, it is done by the Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare. What are the criteria to get this benefit under the PM Kisan Samman Nidhi Yojana? First one is you should have a cultivable land, and the land size should not exceed 2 hectares. And there are certain category of people who are excluded from this benefits. First one is institutional holders. Institutional holders means an organization or a company owning land. For example, if you are a rice company owner and you cannot access benefit under the Pradhan Mantri Samman Nidhi Yojana. And the second class of people excluded from the scheme are government employees, and the next is income tax payers. One of the criteria for getting this benefit is that if a person is going to apply for the Pradhan Mantri Krishi Samman Nidhi Yojana, then he should not have paid income tax returns in the last 1 year. And the next is professionals like lawyers, doctors, engineers. These categories of people are excluded from the benefits under the PM Kisan Samman Nidhi Yojana. Coming to the major features of this scheme, it is a financial supporting scheme that is providing basic income of around 6,000 rupees annually to the small and marginal farmers. The first installment will be mostly in June, July, and the second install will be in September to October, and the third install will be in November to December month. So this is how the farmers will be receiving the amount under the Krishi Samman Yojana. And second is the direct benefit transfer. That is the amount will be given or will be directly transferred to the farmer's banking account. Therefore, it will reduce the leakage. Okay. That is, a centralized desk is there to address the problems of farmers related to the implementation of the scheme. And then the farmers can register themselves for receiving the benefits under the Pradhan Mantri Samman Nidhi Yojana, and that can be done through Kisan Portal, mobile app, or common service centers in the rural area. Therefore, the applying for the scheme is, the complexity is very less. And the next is Aadhaar authentication, which ensures the transparency of this Pradhan Mantri Samman Nidhi Yojana. So in this topic, we discussed the features about the Pradhan Mantri Kisan Samman Nidhi Yojana. With our understanding about the PM Kisan Samman Nidhi Yojana, let's try to answer this prelims practice question. The question is, which of the following statements is or are about correct about the PM Kisan Samman Nidhi Yojana. Statement 1, it is a central sector scheme implemented by the Ministry of Rural Development. Statement 2, under the scheme, rupees 6,000 is provided annually to all landholding farmers' families in 3 equal installments through direct benefit transfer. Statement 3, the scheme requires mandatory Aadhaar authentication for beneficiaries. Select the correct answer using the codes given below. Option A 1 and 2 only, option B 2 and 3 only, option C 3 only, and option D 1, 2 and 3. See, the correct answer is option 3 only. The statement 1 and statement 2 are incorrect because the scheme is a central sector scheme, but it is not implemented by the Ministry of Rural Development. It is implemented by the Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare. And the statement 2 is also incorrect because the rupees 6,000 annually is not provided to all landholding farmers. It is only provided for small and marginal farmers. Therefore, the statement 2 is also incorrect. So the answer is statement 3. The scheme requires mandatory authentication for beneficiaries. Aadhaar authentication for beneficiaries. So the statement 3 is correct. Rest of the 2 statements are incorrect. So with this, we will move to our next article. How green is the steel made out of dismantled ships? The Hindu article is talking about the ethical and environmental concerns associated with the green steel production, which uses the steel from dismantled ships. So when you see this kind of news in newspapers, you have to note certain things. For example, from the prelims point of view, you have to understand about what is meant by the green steel, which is useful for both prelims and in mains. And then you have to note certain terms. For example, the flag of convenience. Sometimes UPSC will ask questions like, they will be asking like, recently you have seen the flag of convenience in the news, which is related to what? So such questions can be asked. So you have to note these kind of terms you are seeing in the newspaper or in the news. And then you have to note about the Hong Kong Convention, which is mentioned in the newspaper. So what is meant by this flag of convenience actually? The flag of convenience is a strategy used by the Western nations, mostly the Western nations and rich nations, to escape the liabilities of environmental and labor laws regarding the dismantling of ships. Once the ships get expired, you have to dismantle it. But it has a lot of environmental and labor restrictions implemented by the environmental and labor laws. So what these Western or the rich nations will do is they will sell these ships to regions with less restrictions and regulations. For example, they can sell the ships to Africa, they can sell the ships to South Asia. Even in India also we have a major ship dismantling port, that is Alang, located in Gujarat. So these kind of things you have to note. So without much delay, let's begin our discussion. First, we are going to understand about what is meant by the green steel. The term indicates that the steel which uses the eco-friendly method of production, or the steel produced using eco-friendly methods, such as replacing the the traditional blast furnace with electric furnace. The blast furnace uses coal for getting maximum heat, but that also causes a lot of environmental pollution. Coming to the case of green steel, they are using electric furnaces instead of using the blast furnace, traditional blast furnace, which is environmental friendly. And another method of green steel production is using the recycled ferrous metal from automobiles and ships, and this reduces the pollution which happens due to the mining. And according to the estimations, the green steel production addresses nearly 8% of global carbon dioxide emission, which aligns with the Paris Agreement. Now we are going to see some of the key features of the green steel making. First is the use of renewable energy, that is, like I said, it is using the electric furnace instead of the traditional blast furnace. And then secondary steel market, for example, the mode of acquiring steel is through recycling, right, instead of mining. Therefore, the steel making, the green steel production can enhance the recycling markets and all. And then emission reduction, that is, it can cut the carbon dioxide emission up to 75%. And just like I said, it is addressing the 8% carbon dioxide emission. The green steel production is addressing the 8% carbon dioxide emission, which is aligning with the Paris Agreement 2015. And not that, Paris Agreement is also very important from environmental perspective for this year UPSC 2025 prelims, because it is the 10th year, right? Paris Agreement came in the year 2015. It's almost 10 years, so questions can be expected. And encourages or strengthens the circular economy. It is the next feature of green steel production, that is, through strengthening the the recycling market, we are promoting the circular economy, that is based on reuse, reduce, and recycle. Coming to the Hong Kong Convention, it is a diplomatic convention held in Hong Kong in 2009, which set global standard for safe and sustainable ship recycling, and it was adopted in the year 2019 to regulate the ship dismantling industries across the world. Some of the key provisions of the Hong Kong Convention: first is hazardous material management, which is focusing on the the safe and eco-friendly and worker-friendly removal of hazardous materials and the parts from the ship. And then we have the health and safety standards, which is focusing on the health and the welfare of the workers who are working in the ship dismantling industry, because we know that once you break an electric vehicle or an automobile or even an electronic accessory, it can release a lot of poisonous gases, and therefore it will be hazardous for the workers who are working in recycling industry and all. Therefore we have to protect the worker using through providing proper mask and proper dress at the working site. And next is recycling plans. This provision is stressing on a requirement of detailed dismantling plan for dismantling every ship before the recycling happens. And then compliance monitoring, that is regular certification and inspection of ship dismantling facilities. Why this news is relevant to India? Like I said, in India we also have a major ship breaking industry which is located in Gujarat, Alang, and India also a party to this Hong Kong Convention, and this Hong Kong Convention is expected to be coming to effective from June 2025. And the another major achievement or the thing is 50% of this Alang dismantling yard has been certified by agencies like layout registers, which makes it more important. At the same time it is more attractive. So what is the importance of this convention, Hong Kong Convention? First is environmental protection, which is focusing on preventing the coastal pollution and protects the health of coastal community through restricting the unsafe practices of dismantling. And next is strengthening the workers' safety, for example enforcing a global standards for ship breaking yards. And the next is global accountability, that is promoting the sustainable practices not only in a region but across the world regarding the ship breaking. And the next is modernization, that is encouraging new techniques of dismantling ships, for example encouraging safer dry dock mantling. And in the case of India we have that, so therefore it enhances India's reputation across the world. And that is this is calling for a shift from the traditional beach dismantling to a dry dock dismantling, which also protects the coastal area and prevents the coastal pollution. Coming to the certain benefits of the green steel making, the first is lower carbon emission. Like I said, it is because of the reduced dependence on the coal for production. And the next is energy efficiency, that is the modern electric furnaces are outperforming the traditional coal fired furnaces. And the next is waste management, that is the proper utilization of ferrous scrap will be done for steel production, therefore it reduces the wastage into the environment. And the next is economic advantages, which supports, like I already said, it supports the recycling industry, circular economy, and industries associated with the dismantling and automobiles. Coming to the certain concerns related to the ship recycling, first we have the environmental concerns, because most of the recycling activities are done in the coastal areas. Even though we have a strong convention like Hong Kong Convention, it is polluting the coastal atmosphere and it threats the marine ecosystem. And then we have the labor safety. Even though we have a global standard to protect the workers at the the facilities, there are still lack of measures, especially in the South Asian yards. For example, if you go to the YouTube, just type the dismantling, ship dismantling, you will be coming across a document about the ship mantling industry in Bangladesh. So that video was actually posted 5 to 7 years ago. Now there will be a lot of changes, but you can see how the ship dismantling industries and the workers are suffering in such conditions, with the poor working conditions. And then we have the hazardous waste, that is improper handling of asbestos, heavy metals can impact the workers. The asbestos can also lead to cancers and all. So this is both harmful for environment and the health of workers working in that area. And the next major concern is the flag of convenience. That is, like I said, to escape the regulations under the environmental and labor laws, the Western nations or the powerful nations can sell the ships to countries with weak regulations. So these kind of concerns are there. So in this topic we discussed the what is green steel and how it is benefiting the environment and the human health. Then we discussed certain other concepts related to the Hong Kong Convention 2009, its objective, and why it is relevant to India. So based on our discussion, try to answer this prelims practice question. The question is, which of the following ministries is primarily responsible for overseeing green steel making and sustainable practices in steel industry in India? Option A, Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. Option B, Ministry of Heavy Industries and Public Enterprises. Option C, Ministry of Steel. And option D, Ministry of Finance. So green steel, sustainable practices, the question may divert us to option A, but actually the option is option Ministry of Steel. It is option C is the correct answer. When you see certain terms like green steel and sustainable practices, you will be automatically going for option A. So this kind of traps you can expect in UPSC prelims. So it is very important whenever you come across a public policy, please note which ministry is implementing that public policy. For example, the article about the Pradhan Mantri Kisan Samman Nidhi. So most of us will think like it is talking about the farmers. So it is talking about the income. It is talking about the rural economy. Therefore, it will be Ministry of Rural Development. But actually, it is a Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare. So you have to note the nodal Ministry of Implementation whenever you come across any government schemes, which is very important for UPSC prelims. So now we are moving to the next article. Emerging H5N1 mutations raise risk of human infection. There was a general notion that the H5N1 will only affect, it's an avian influenza virus which only affects the birds. But recently a mutation known as PBE627K, this mutated virus has infected a British Columbian teenager, which concerns about the, which raises concerns about the increasing risk of H5N1 virus in humans. So without much delay, let's begin our discussion about the H5N1 from the prelims point of view. So what is this H5N1 bird flu? It's a highly pathogenic avian influenza virus which primarily affects the birds, but it can also affect the mammals in certain conditions. Coming to the origin and the spread of this virus, it was initially discovered in 1996 in Hong Kong in a goose poultry, and from there it started spreading to other regions of the world, and it primarily affects both the wild and domestic birds, and the human infection is also possible, but it is not generally happens. It is only rare cases which happens only when the humans comes in direct contact with the infected birds. Coming to the human to human transmission and the climate change, we can see that human to human transmission is not sustainable and it is only rare case according to WHO. And the climate change has exacerbated the velocity of the spread of the diseases. For example, we will be recording more rate of infections like H5N1 during the time of rainy season in the case of India. Coming to the vaccination of the H5N1 for the coming to the vaccination for H5N1, human vaccines are mostly not recommended because, like I said, because of the rare infection. And in the case of poultry, we mostly uses the inactivated H5N2 vaccines. And currently the messenger RNA vaccines are in development. Coming to the certain symptoms of infected animals, first we can see the behavioral and physiological changes in animals. For example, they will hesitate to consume food, reduced milk production in the case of cattle, and dehydration in the cattle and birds. There are certain visible signs, for example, fever in the birds, nasal discharge from the mammals or birds, and lethargic attitude of the infected animals. For example, they won't walk that much rapidly like the rest of the flocks. At the same time, they won't consume food. So these kind of lethargic changes you can feel when an animal gets infected by the H5N1. Coming to the risk assessment done by WHO regarding the H5N1, the human transmission is happens only in the rare case, only when the human comes in contact with the direct contact with the infected animals, and the human to human transmission is only very rare, and the overall risk of to the general population from this H5N1 according to WHO is very low, but surveillance and risk management are very critical. They are recommended by WHO. Coming to the certain preventive measures and recommendations related to the H5N1, we can see we have certain public health guidelines. That is, once an infection is recorded in an area, then you should hide. Then you should avoid visiting high risk environments. For example, imagine that in your neighborhood there is an outbreak of this H5N1. Then you should not go to the nearby protein shop or the animal market. And personally, you have to maintain hygiene, especially you have to wash your and sanitize your hands and legs properly. And then animal health measures we have. For example, once you notice an outbreak of this H5N1 in your neighborhood, then you should report the infection. That should be your primary action. At the same time, you should encourage the community, as well as you should refrain from yourself from eating the poultry for some period of time. For example, during the rainy season, the people from Kerala will avoid eating chickens and all. And if you have any symptoms, or if you got exposed to the infected environment, then you should seek the medical attention as soon as possible to avoid complications, even though the risk is very low. So these are the general preventive measures and recommendations given by the WHO and other institutions regarding the H5N1. So in this context, let us discuss a prelims practice question. The question is, consider the following statements regarding the spread of H5N1. Statement 1, H5N1 infections are primarily linked to close contact with the infected or dead contact with the infected live or dead animals. And then the second statement, climate change has increased the potential spread of H5N1 by altering bird behavior and migration pattern. Statement 3, airborne transmission of H5N1 between humans has been confirmed in multiple cases. Which of the statements given above is or are correct? Option A, 1 and 2 only, option B, 1 and 3 only, option C, 2 and 3 only, and option D, 1, 2 and 3. The correct answer is, from our discussion itself we can answer, the answer is option A, 1 and 2 only. The statement 3 is incorrect. The airborne transmission of H5N1 between humans is never confirmed in multiple cases. The transmission to humans is possible only in rare cases, that too when the human comes in direct contact with the infected animal. Otherwise, human to human transmission is very, very rare. So the statement 1 and 2 are correct. Statement 3 is incorrect. With this, we are coming to the conclusion for today's newspaper analysis. If you like the video, hit the like button, give your feedbacks as comments, and share this content with your friends. And also subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon to receive on-time update from Shankar IAS Academy. Thank you. Have a nice day.